You are dying a slow death. Not physically. Your heart is beating, your lungs are drawing breath, your blood is warm, but there is a part of you, the most vital, dangerous and authentic part, that is being suffocated. Day by day, conversation by conversation, nod by polite nod, you are being strangled by an invisible hand. The hand of they. They think you should be married by now. They think you should have a stable job. They think you are too quiet, too loud, too ambitious, or not ambitious enough. And because you are terrified of the silence that follows their disapproval, you obey, you perform. You twist your spine to fit into boxes they built for you. You have become an actor in a play you did not write, reciting lines you do not believe, for an audience that does not actually care if you live or die. Niccolò Machiavelli, the most misunderstood philosopher in history, knew exactly why you do this. He knew that the human mind is fragile, desperate for validation, and terrified of isolation. But he also knew the cure. Most people think Machiavelli wrote about how to rule a kingdom. He didn't. He wrote about how to rule reality. And the first rule of his philosophy is brutal. If you do not rule yourself, you will be ruled by others. There is no middle ground. There is no democracy in the soul. Either you are the prince of your own mind, or you are a servant in someone else's court. Today we are going to perform a psychological exorcism. We are going to rip out the need for validation that has been programmed into you since birth. We are going to look at the cold, hard philosophy of Machiavelli, not to manipulate others, but to stop others from manipulating you. I am going to hand you 7 keys, 7 ruthless principles that will turn you from a people pleaser into a sovereign entity. But I must warn you, this knowledge is not comforting. It is not self-help. It is self-defense. And once you see the strings that have been controlling you, you will never be able to unsee them. You will lose friends. You will upset family. You will be called cold. You will be called selfish. And for the first time in your life, you won't care. You will finally be free. But to get there, you have to be willing to kill the part of you that begs to be liked. Let's begin with the lie that keeps you enslaved. You have been told that being good means being agreeable, that being a virtuous person means putting others before yourself. You have been taught that the highest moral ground is self-sacrifice. This is a slave morality, and it is designed to keep you weak. Machiavelli wrote, "A man who wishes to make a profession of goodness in everything must necessarily come to grief among so many who are not good." Read that again. Must necessarily come to grief. If you insist on being nice to everyone, you will be destroyed. Why? Because the world is not nice. People are driven by self-interest, ego, and survival. When you prioritize their feelings over your reality, you are bringing a bouquet of flowers to a knife fight. You think your sacrifice is buying you love. You think that if you burn yourself to keep others warm, they will be grateful. They won't. They will just complain that the fire isn't hot enough. And when you are nothing but ash, they will walk away to find new fuel. This is the harsh reality of human nature that Machiavelli refused to ignore. People are ungrateful, fickle, false, cowardly, covetous. As long as you succeed, they are yours entirely. They will offer you their blood, property, life, and children, as long as the need is far distant, but when it approaches, they revolt. This isn't cynicism, this is observation. Look at your own life. Look at the times you said yes when you wanted to say no. Did they respect you for it, or did they just expect it again the next time? When you live for others, you are teaching them how to treat you. You are teaching them that your time is cheap, that your boundaries are suggestions, that your soul is for sale. You are signaling that you are a resource to be harvested, not a person to be respected. The Machiavellian shift begins when you realize that goodness without power is just submission. True virtue requires the strength to say no. It requires the capacity to be disliked. You must learn how not to be good. That doesn't mean you become evil. It doesn't mean you go out and harm people for sport. It means you stop being harmless. It means you reserve your kindness for those who have earned it, rather than broadcasting it to everyone in a desperate bid for approval. A prince does not scatter his gold in the streets hoping the mob will love him. He guards his treasury. Your energy is your gold. Your attention is your currency. Stop throwing it at people who wouldn't bleed for you. Living for yourself starts with a ruthless audit of your mental theater. Why is this so hard? Why does the thought of disappointing your parents, your partner, or even strangers on the internet make your stomach churn? Biologically, we are wired for tribes. Ancestrally, being cast out meant death. If the tribe didn't like you, you starved or you were eaten by wolves. So the brain developed a survival mechanism, anxiety. That spike of fear you feel when someone criticizes you, that's your lizard brain screaming, "Danger! Exile imminent! Fix it! Apologize! Submit!" But you are not on the savannah anymore. You are in the 21st century. If your boss dislikes your presentation, you won't starve. If your mother doesn't like your career choice, a tiger won't eat you. The danger is a hallucination, but the cage it creates is real. You have built a mental theater. In this theater, the seats are filled with everyone you have ever known. Your third-grade teacher, the cool kids from high school, your ex, your colleagues, society at large. Every decision you make, you look up at them. You wait for applause. You fear the booing. Should I take this job? Look at the audience. Should I wear this outfit? Look at the audience. Should I speak my truth? Look at the audience. Machiavelli tells us to clear the theater. He understood that reputation is a tool, not a master. A prince cares what people think only insofar as it serves his strategy. He does not care what they think for his emotional stability. There is a profound difference between managing perception and needing validation. Managing perception is power. It is calculating. If I appear angry here, I gain respect. Needing validation is weakness. It is reactive. I hope they think I'm smart. I hope they like me. The moment you need them to clap, they own you. To live for yourself, you must fire the audience. You must realize that most people are not looking at you. They are looking at themselves. They are obsessing over their own performance in their own mental theaters. They don't have time to analyze your script because they are too busy memorizing theirs. And even if they are judging you, so what? Let's look at the physics of an opinion. What is it? Is it a solid object? Can it cut your skin? Can it steal your bank account? No. An opinion is a synaptic firing in someone else's brain. It is a thought form dissolved in chemicals inside a skull that isn't yours. Why are you letting a chemical reaction in another person's head dictate the trajectory of your life? It is insanity. Machiavelli suggests a different approach: contempt. Not the emotional, screaming kind of contempt, the cold, indifferent kind, the kind that looks at a barking dog and doesn't bark back. When you live for yourself, you treat the opinions of others like the weather. You might carry an umbrella if it rains, but you don't scream at the clouds. You simply adjust and keep walking toward your destination. You must become the only spectator in your theater. You write the play, you act the role, you critique the performance. If you are satisfied with what you see in the mirror, the silence of the crowd means nothing. This is the most famous line in Machiavellian philosophy and the most misused. It is much safer to be feared than loved, because love is preserved by the link of obligation which, owing to the baseness of men, is broken at every opportunity for their advantage. But fear preserves you by a dread of punishment which never fails. Now strip away the politics. Apply this to your psychology. We are not talking about terrorizing your friends. We are talking about respect. In the modern world, fear translates to respect, and love translates to likability. Most people choose likability. They want to be the easygoing friend, the accommodating employee, the chill partner. They think likability is a safety net. It is not. It is a trapdoor. When you prioritize being liked, you become malleable. You have no edges. You are a fluid that takes the shape of whatever container you are poured into. And people do not respect fluid. They drink it or they spill it. Respect, Machiavellian fear, comes from having edges. It comes from having standards that you refuse to compromise. It comes from the quiet understanding that you are capable of walking away. That is the dread of punishment in a social context. The realization that your presence is a privilege, not a guarantee. If you live for others, you are terrified of them leaving you. If you live for yourself, they are terrified of you leaving them. The dynamic flips. Think of the people you respect most deeply. Are they the ones who agree with everything you say? Are they the ones who apologize for existing? No. They are the ones who have a code. They are the ones who say no without explanation. They are the ones who are willing to create friction to defend their values. You might not always like them in the moment. You might find them difficult, but you respect them. You value their praise because it is rare. You value their time because it is guarded. Machiavelli teaches us that you cannot build a life on the foundation of being liked. It is too unstable. People's moods change. Their tastes change. If your identity is built on their approval, you will crumble when the wind shifts. But if you build your life on self-respect, that is stone. To live for yourself, you must be willing to let people dislike you. In fact, you should welcome it. If nobody dislikes you, you are doing nothing. You are standing for nothing. You are a ghost. Dislike is a signal that you have defined your borders. It means you have occupied space. It means you have said, "This is who I am," and someone else said, "I don't like that," and you didn't move. That is power. Stop trying to be the nice guy. Be the competent man. Be the formidable woman. Be the person who has a mission so compelling that whether people join you or hate you is irrelevant to the outcome. One of the greatest ways we give our power away is through the mouth. We talk, we overshare, we explain. You have a dream, you tell your friends. You have a plan, you post it on social media. You have a problem, you vent to your co-workers. You are leaking energy. Every time you tell someone your plans, you are handing them a veto. You are inviting their doubts into your sanctuary. I'm going to start a business. Oh really? In this economy? My cousin tried that and lost everything. Boom. Now you are carrying their fear. You were flying and they tied a rock to your ankle. Not because they hate you, often because they love you and they are afraid for you. But the result is the same. You sink. Machiavelli was a master of silence. He knew that a prince never reveals his full design until the move is already made. There is no avoiding war. It can only be postponed to the advantage of others. In your life, the war is the struggle to change, to become something new. When you announce your moves, you are giving the enemy, the status quo, the doubters, the crabs in the bucket, time to organize against you. Living for yourself requires a level of strategic secrecy. Keep your counsel, build in the dark. There is a psychological phenomenon called social reality. When you tell someone you are going to do something, your brain releases a hit of dopamine. You feel good, as if you have already done it. This reduces your motivation to actually do the work. But there is a darker side. When you live for others, you use conversation as a way to seek permission. You explain your life choices because you want them to nod and say, yes, that makes sense. You are looking for a stamp of approval on your passport before you travel. Stop explaining. Explanations are for subordinates. Leaders do not explain, they declare. Or better yet, they act. If you want to quit your job, don't ask for advice from people too scared to quit theirs. If you want to change your body, don't talk about your diet to people who are addicted to comfort. Silence is a shield. It protects your embryonic ideas from the harsh winds of criticism. It creates an aura of mystery. When you are silent, people project their own thoughts onto you. They wonder what you are up to. They lean in. But more importantly, silence forces you to rely on your own internal compass. When you can't ask, "What do you think?" you are forced to ask, "What do I think?" This is terrifying at first. The silence is loud. You will feel the void where the validation used to be. Sit in that void. That is where you meet yourself. That is where the iron is forged. Machiavelli advises to consult with no one about your decisions unless you have first consulted with yourself. Become a black box. Input goes in, information, observation, strategy, but nothing comes out until the result is finished. When you present the world with a finished product, a new career, a new physique, a new life, they cannot argue with it, they can only witness it. Arguments are for plans. Awe is for results. We have secured the mind. Now we must secure the perimeter. Machiavelli wrote extensively about armies. He warned specifically against mercenaries and auxiliaries, soldiers who fight for money or belong to another ruler. He said they are useless and dangerous. Why? Because they have no loyalty to you. In times of peace, they despoil you. In times of war, they desert you. Look at your circle. Who are the mercenaries in your life? The ones who are only around when you have something to offer, when you are the one driving, paying, or entertaining. Who are the auxiliaries? The ones who belong to another tribe, another mindset, who pull you into their drama and their battle. Living for yourself requires a brutal audit of your alliances. This is the part where most people fail because they are sentimental. They hold on to childhood friends who have grown into toxic adults. They hold on to family members who use guilt as a weapon. They hold on to partners who mock their ambition. You tell yourself, "But we have history." Machiavelli would ask, "Does history win battles?" No. Strategy wins battles. Strength wins battles. If you are trying to build a new life, you cannot keep the old architects on the payroll. You must perform surgery, and surgery by definition involves cutting. It involves pain. It involves removing parts of your life that you thought were essential but are actually gangrenous. When you start living for yourself, you will change. Your vibration will change. You will stop tolerating disrespect. You will stop engaging in gossip. You will stop complaining, and the people around you will hate it. They will say, "You've changed." They will say it like an accusation, like a crime. Your response should be silence, because they are right. You have changed. You have stopped being a mirror for their insecurities. You have stopped being the sidekick in their tragedy. You must be willing to walk alone rather than walk with those who weigh you down, Machiavelli said. A wise prince should rely on what is his own, not on what is of others. This means emotional self-sufficiency. It means if your friends leave because you set boundaries, let them leave. Open the door for them. If your family attacks you because you chose a path they don't understand, let them attack. Do not retreat. This is the price of sovereignty. Isolation is not a punishment, it is a filter. When you remove the noise of the mercenaries, you create space for the loyal. You create space for people who respect the NEWU, not the OLDU. But you have to be willing to sit in the empty room first. You have to be willing to endure the social winter. Most people would rather be in a warm room with people who secretly despise them than in a cold room alone with their dignity. Be the exception. Choose the cold. The cold preserves. The heat of fake relationships only rots. If you are living for others, you are a thief. You are stealing from your future self to pay off the debts of your present insecurity. Time is the only resource that Fortuna cannot give back. Money can be regained. Power can be regained. Love can be regained. Time, once it ticks, it is gone into the void forever. Machiavelli was obsessed with timing, the concept of occasione, the occasion, the window of opportunity that opens and shuts. When you live for others, you miss the window. You spend hours listening to a friend complain about a problem they have no intention of solving. You spend weekends at events you don't want to attend, trying to impress people you don't like. You spend years in a career chosen by your parents. This is not politeness, it is suicide. To live for yourself, you must become ruthless with your time. Ruthless comes from the word rue, meaning regret. To be ruthless means to have no regret. You must learn to say no without the hangover of guilt. Someone asks for a favor that drains you? No. An invitation to a social obligation that bores you? No. A request for your attention that yields no return? No. You don't need to be rude. You don't need to be aggressive. You simply need to be unavailable. The prince is not accessible to every peasant who knocks on the castle gate. He has guards. He has walls. He chooses who enters. Why is your gate wide open? Why do you let anyone with a smartphone walk into your mind and loot your attention? You must build a moat around your time. When you start doing this, people will call you selfish. They will say you are hard to reach. Good. You should be hard to reach. Rare things are valuable. Abundant things are cheap. If you are always available, you are cheap. Understand this. When you say yes to them, you are saying no to you. You are saying no to your craft, your health, your peace, your empire. You are prioritizing their temporary comfort over your eternal reality. Machiavelli writes that a prince must not fear the reputation of being miserly stingy, because if he is too generous, he will waste his resources and eventually become despised for being poor. But if he is stingy, he saves his resources, and eventually he can do great things which benefits everyone. Be stingy with your time. Hoard it like a dragon hoards gold. Because only when you have accumulated a surplus of time can you invest it in something that actually matters, something that defines you. Living for yourself means realizing that you are on a death clock. The sand is running out. Do not let others hold the hourglass. So what happens when you cut the strings? What happens when you stop performing, stop oversharing, stop pleasing, and stop wasting time? You enter the state of virtù. In Machiavelli's language, virtù does not mean virtue in the Christian sense. It doesn't mean being a good boy. It means prowess, capability, the raw masculine energy of imposing your will upon the world. It is the ability to look at the chaos of Fortuna and say, I will shape this. When you live for yourself, you reclaim your virtù. You stop being a victim of circumstance. You stop saying, I can't do this because my family won't let me, or I can't do this because society expects that. You realize that the only thing stopping you is your own lack of will. This is the most terrifying stage, because when you blame others, you are safe. It's their fault I'm not happy. That is a comfortable prison. But when you cut them off, when you take back the reins, if you fail now, it is your fault. That weight, that is the weight of the crown. Machiavelli wrote The Prince while he was in exile. He had been tortured, he had been stripped of his title, he was living on a farm, poor and isolated. By all modern metrics, he was a loser. He had been cancelled by the Medici. But every night, he would take off his mud-covered work clothes, put on his royal courtly garments, and enter his study. He would sit at his desk and converse with the ancients. He wrote the book that would change history. He lived for himself. He didn't wait for the Medici to give him a job. He didn't wait for his friends to validate him. He created a masterpiece in the silence of his own rejection. He turned his isolation into an empire. You must do the same. Your life is your study. Your actions are your book. When you stop living for the applause of the present, you start working for the legacy of the future. You start doing things because they must be done, not because they are rewarded. You start lifting weights not to look good for others, but to feel the iron in your blood. You start learning not to get a degree, but to sharpen your mind into a weapon. You start creating not to get likes, but to exorcise the demons in your soul. This is the ultimate freedom. It is the point where you become dangerous, because a man who does not need anything from others cannot be controlled by others. If you don't need their money, they can't buy you. If you don't need their love, they can't seduce you. If you don't need their validation, they can't shame you. You become an outlier, a glitch in the matrix of social conditioning. You become the prince. Here is the twist, the paradox that Machiavelli understood but few admit. By living for yourself, you actually become better for the world. The person who lives for others is resentful. They are bitter. They give with strings attached. They are passive-aggressive. Their kindness is a loan that charges high interest. They pollute their relationships with unspoken expectations. But the person who lives for themselves? They are full. Their cup runneth over. When they give genuinely because they want to, not because they feel they have to. When they love from a place of strength, not neediness. A strong, self-possessed individual is a pillar. A weak, people-pleasing individual is a vine. Vines strangle, pillars support. By prioritizing your own mental stability, your own resources, your own mission, you become a force of order in a chaotic world. You become the person others can rely on, not because you are a doormat, but because you are a rock. Machiavelli said that a prince must rely on his own arms. When you rely on your own arms, you can protect your people. When you rely on others, you are defenseless, and so are they. Your children need you to be strong, not nice. Your partner needs you to be authentic, not agreeable. The world needs you to be you, not a photocopied version of what you think you should be. To live for yourself is the most generous thing you can do, because it kills the lie, it kills the fake smile, it kills the hollow yes, it kills the resentment that rots families from the inside out. It replaces it with truth. And truth, even when it is cold, is the only foundation that holds. So the question remains, now that you have the keys, now that you see the theater for what it is, now that you know the danger of the audience and the power of the silence, what will you do when this video ends? The algorithm will offer you another distraction, a cat video, a political outrage, a hit of dopamine to make you forget what you just heard. The world is waiting to snap the collar back onto your neck. Will you let it, or will you sit in the silence? Will you look at your phone, look at the names in your inbox and ask, do I serve you, or do you serve me? The door to the cage is open. It has always been open. The only thing keeping you inside was the fear that there was nothing out here for you. But there is everything out here. There is reality. Machiavelli opened the door 500 years ago. He walked out into the cold, dark night of truth, and he is still standing there, waiting for you to join him. But you have to take the first step. You have to be willing to be disliked. You have to be willing to be misunderstood. If you are still here, you are not like the others. Subscribe if you haven't, but if you want what's hidden, click the join button and step into the architect level. You will unlock exclusive, uncensored videos that dive into the deepest parts of the human psyche. Most won't. That's the point. I'll see you on the other side.